So today we are together with family in some sense, but part of my family and not part of my wife. So
Which
it's
is
really,
weird.
yeah. So it's for me a really big pleasure to introduce you to each other. First of all, the people we have on today is Randy and Karin, and this is my wife Cecilie. I'm so happy to you finally meeting each other.
Yes, it's so sweet. I'm very happy too. Yes.
And to put the story straight for the people listening, then I had the pleasure of working with the Passion Test, which Janet Atwood created together with Chris Atwood. And Randy and Karin has been part of the Passion Test family, the small crew of people that made everything work and was there, and I was as well. So we have spent multiple calls together and it has been a big pleasure. And I have yet to meet you in real life, but it feels like there has been a lot of hugs between us, a lot of love. So I'm
Yes.
happy to have you here. Welcome.
Absolutely. Well, it was always such a pleasure to work with you, Jesper, in these recent years past. And yes, we'll have to have more than a virtual hug at some point.
At some point,
Are we pretty close to each other?
they
Or is it? Where are you?
Well, you're in Mexico and we're in New Mexico.
Yes.
Sounds like we could just shout.
We live in Santa Fe, and we also have some land that we're broadcasting from right now, about an hour and a quarter north of Santa Fe, in the heart of rural northern New Mexico.
Yeah.
Sounds
So-
like we have to go to that area. We
Yeah.
have a very good friend in Santa Fe already. One more.
Oh,
So yeah, we
Yeah.
should put that needle on the map and make it
okay.
happen.
That would be awesome. Yes.
Mhm.
I think you would love I mean, you're traveling all around the world.
Yeah, we are.
Such a cool thing because I remember when Jesper said he wanted to really do this dream. And the two of you were like, yep. And you made it happen with all your kids. I'm still, we are still so impressed
Yes,
that
we're in awe.
you're continuing on this journey. What has it been? 4 years?
five and a half
Oh, no.
now, 5.5. But maybe for the people listening who don't know, then maybe we briefly should talk about the passion test, and then I would like to talk about passion as a driver and passion as a driver to the projects you're working on today. So if one of you could take that ball and start it rolling.
Yeah, of course. So the passion test is actually, it's a process and it's a tool to help you get clear about what's most important in your life. And so once you get clear about what the 5 top passions are, the things that you're prioritizing right now, then you use it kind of as a decision-making tool so that every day you're looking at those 5 passions and you're saying yes. So anything that is like a situation that comes up where it will support your passions, you want to say yes. And if it's something that distracts you, you want to say no. I know that Janet and Chris Atwood, who created this whole program, and they started, I think, about 16 years ago, and they started with the book, The Passion Test. And then they decided they were going to create certification programs. And they were highly successful. They started in the United States. Then they went and started to travel, and it got bigger and bigger. And that's actually where I came in as the director of the Passion Test programs. Then I got really excited because, first of all, I was a facilitator. I went through the Passion Test certification program. I loved it because I could see the power of someone who's 5 years old all the way to 105 years old, that they could use this process in their life. And it's energizing and it's exciting. And then I became, as the director, then I decided to become a master trainer. And then Randy also, Randy, after I became a facilitator, he was like, wow, you are so different. I don't know if you remember that.
In a good way, in a good way.
Yeah, I wasn't, yes, because I had really come out of a very, burned out situation as an administrator in the public education system. So I was extremely burned out. So Randy saw this big shift inside of me. And then he said, I want some of that. And so he became a facilitator. And then when Chris and Janet started to evolve into actually training people to become master trainers and teach the certification program, then I got involved and Randy got involved. So we're both master trainers as well. And I mean, I think also, Randy, you had a whole lead role in doing some writing and support that way. So there was a lot of different things that we were all doing. And the program is still like everywhere in the world, mostly now with Janet, Japan, China, Thailand. She seems to be focusing more on the Asian countries right now. But it's so cool. That's still her passion, clearly. And I actually, after about 14 years of being with Janet, finally said, it's time for me to really live my passions, because my passions have changed, right? Like all of our passions change potentially at some point.
Karin, we had Janet on and Chris. We have had both of them on a podcast, and I will make the links to in the show notes to them so people can hear them. But one fun thing Janet said was, "Yeah, but you know what, Jesper? Then sometimes it shows up that I'm not people's passion, and then they move on." And she laughed a lot. And I was like, "You're right, Janet. I moved on, but and." So she's out there helping people still, but where are you today? What are you working on? I've seen a lot of pictures on the social media with interest in health. That's what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I am super passionate since the pandemic, especially. I mean, I've always been interested in my health, but since the pandemic, I really kind of struck a new kind of path for myself where I realized, God, I did not want to become a couch potato, you know, because I was going to the gym and doing all of that. So I just asked people all around the world to join me on Zoom and work out with me. And it was very exhilarating, actually, to just have people, you know, a tribe of people, because, you know, during that time, everything was so isolating. So to have a community of people, and I call it exercise for health. And, you know, I think after the first year, I was like, okay, is everyone good? Like, I can stop. I know you know, and everyone was like, hell no, you got to keep going. This is fantastic. I feel better than I've ever felt. And I went, oh, okay. So then I continued on, and now it's been almost 4 years later. And I continue to just feel so energized and inspired by what people are doing at whatever age and stage of their health that they're in. But I'm all about cultivating whole body health, really getting people to, you know, optimal wellness and in body, mind, spirit. And so I'm kind of going through the body with the exercise, the strength training, because we now know, I'm sure you've heard everywhere, that our muscles are kind of being depleted, and they're not being worked after the, I don't know, about 30, you're finding that muscles are depleting. So we have to build them. So this is like a whole new thing that we've heard, but now that we're, at least me, in my, you know, 50s and now 60s, I'm like, whoa, I really have to work on this. And it's a joy because I feel so much better. And I've got Randy here, who's been doing this with me since day one, right? So that's been awesome.
The week of the pandemic shutdown, Karin shifted her brilliant coaching, training, teaching skills into the whole range of holistic health and physical health for people, especially those in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that do understand their lives won't go on forever, and that they want to have a quality life, and they want to feel strong and vigorous and energetic for as long as they can, however that is. So yes, I did join Karin. We've been in a quick little background, we've been a 2-mule team for our entire relationship, which is now going on 40 years. We'll actually, during that time, we've done a number of things, one of which was we went to graduate school, both got doctorates in organizational and educational leadership. Karin's research on servant leadership. And I'm saying this because these are some of the things that attracted us to the Passion Test family when we encountered it. We both had become burnt out on large public educational institutions. I'd been working in higher ed. I'd been a psychology, sociology, leadership studies professor. And I'd walk around these campuses and see all these buildings and go, you know, this just isn't working. The people that are getting these educations are not, on the whole, keeping us from the brink of climate disaster and, you know, and a lot of chaos around inequity and social justice and whatnot. Good efforts, many phenomenal efforts. I enjoyed all my teaching years and my students, but the politics and the structures just were really not working. They were very dysfunctional. That's what attracted us to Janet and her work. We're ready to step outside of those large institutions and see what we can do, making contact with people all over the world in the way that Karin has already mentioned. So yeah, she's on this track now with more than just the strength training and physical fitness, and she'll share more in a moment. Where I went since I last saw you, Jesper, where we were, you know, we were working together to creatively get the message out about how fantastic the programs we were involved in just were, you know, getting those to as many people as we could. Interestingly, after a 20-year hiatus, I was asked by someone to teach at a graduate school in Santa Fe, Southwestern College. And I went, oh my gosh, no, higher ed. But this particular school actually was founded based on the spiritual principles that I grew up from the time I was 6 years old. And it's called New Thought. It's one of the branches of New Thought. And I'm going, oh my goodness, an institution of higher learning that actually has these core spiritual values, as well as this overemphasis on the cognitive, right? And so I was very impressed, very drawn. And so beginning of COVID, when Karin began her physical training, I began actually teaching, coaching, supporting young mental health professionals getting their master's degrees in mental health and social advocacy. So it was also an institution that was very invested in that. And now Karin and I do our passion test together at the beginning of every year. We take each other through, and our top 5 passions emerge, some that are continuous and others that can be very surprising. Well, there's one that I've put on the back burner for a couple of years now. I do have 3 publications out on Amazon and other outlets in the world, one of which is a sequel to the Passion Test book. I co-authored with a clinical psychologist called The Passion Principle. But now I'm ready. It's been a while, and I'm really ready to write again. I have a number of things in mind. As I shared before we started this recording, we're actually sitting in the room that will get its floor put in and the finish electric in this next week. And it is our writer's retreat, which you're actually welcome to come and write your book here if you'd like.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. But Randy, there's also a little pet project. Can we call it that?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
something about some dogs.
I love that, Jesper. I love that pet project. Yes, gosh, it was almost 10 years ago that a friend in Colorado, we were cross-country skiing. Karin was on that very trip, and we had 3 or 4 dogs. They were short-legged, long-haired, short-haired, and they were romping around in the snow. And my friend and I said, well, you know, if those dogs could speak English to us right now, what would they be saying, you know? And out of that came this idea of, we both had had a lot of exposure and used different kinds of wisdom cards. Tarot is just one branch of that. Wisdom cards is more generic, more general. Just decks of cards, each of which have images and words that trigger basically your own subconscious messages about what's going on for you and what might be the opportunities that are coming next and how you can navigate through the world. And so the cards actually are another way other than a self-help book, because let's face it, millions of people will never pick up a self-help book, right? But they might pick up a deck of cards that have cute puppies and human companions. And so using our love of animals, not using the animals, but using our love of animals as a bridge to those people to engage in a playful, I know you are emphasizing play, and I've interviewed some very interesting people on the whole subject of learning through play. So this is my play learning with these cards, and it's all positive psychology. Janet Atwood's in there. The passion test is in these cards. You know, sort of my life experiences, and both in and out of the classroom or in these cards through the imaginary voices of dogs and cats, the divine dog.
And really nice dogs. Wonderful pictures of wonderful dogs that helps take in the message.
Yeah.
About the whole health and exercises, then I will share a little of my own personal journey and then end up with a question. So I saw myself as a yogi because I, back in 2001, had done yoga for 4 months, kind of. And I've been on a 1 month retreat in India 2 times, but I still had
Did
this.
you go to a 1 month retreat in India twice within 4 months?
No. During those first years, yeah. One of them, what we do. Okay, yeah.
So,
But my yoga was like an on and off practice where it was more off than on, if we are honest. Then the children came and we got more and more children, and I just kept up making excuses. Then one day I took my bike, rode into the yoga shala, and the trainer, or he said to me, he said, well, you're strong enough, but your problem is your stamina. You're not showing up for yourself. And I got so annoyed that I never returned. But I also got so annoyed that I've been thankful in my heart for how annoying he was to be right. That I said to him, I will show that prick. I will show him that I can stand up for myself. And so what I did was I started on a really, if I look back, it's really stupid. So for 12 years, I've been running 1 kilometer every day for 12 years, not more, just 1 kilometer. And it's actually a lot to take on the running gear just for 1 kilometer. And in the start, it was, I could go to bed. I was like, oh, I forgot it. Then up, put on the gear, and I believe I've forgotten it twice. Then I ran 2 the next day. And that's the exercise to show myself I could make an agreement with myself and keep it. Then I slowly, by having a daily practice of some sort, started to put on more exercises. Then I think 3 years ago, we were together with my young cousin, only 25, and he did yoga every morning. And I just looked at his body and was like, man, he can do this, he can do that. And I looked at myself and just getting more and more chubby. Then I started my yoga again. And so now for 2 years, I've been doing a early morning exercise with my yoga, but also days where I hadn't. Then come last summer, I suddenly decided I wanted to become 120. Yeah, I have had that number in my youth, but I was like, why not see how long I can live and how good I can live? And I read some articles from an American called Brian Johnson, who is this very measured billionaire who is doing everything to see if he can reverse his age. He's over the top, but he said a sentence that stuck with me, which is kind of a rewriting of Hippocrates or whatever he's called, that say, if someone asks you to heal them, start by asking them to stop what is hurting them. But this Brian, what he said was that he had started firing his evening Brian, meaning, and when he woke up in the morning, he was good at taking decisions. He knew what he wanted. He was like, yeah, today we'll do this, this, and this. But when it became 7 p.m., a half a bottle of red wine sounded good. Half a bag of chips sounded good. Maybe some candy and some ice cream sounded good. And he didn't have the backbone to fight against the evening version of himself. And I was like, okay. And I looked at my own life and I could see that my evening Jesper was very similar, didn't have any backbone at all. So I fired him and started the intermediate fasting. And Cecilia and I have been doing that now for around half a year. And to see what that have changed, I've lost 26 pounds. And I've started upping my exercises also. But no,
Just for the record, we're a power couple, but we don't do the same thing.
we don't do the same thing.
Okay.
But the interesting thing I would like us to see if we can unwrap together is, why is it so difficult to make the choice? It took me, if you look at me, and that's why I tell my whole story, is it has taken me like 12 years to come to a place where I'm like, okay, I will actually not accept that if I continue down this road in 20 years, I won't be able to rise from a sofa. I will be too overweight. I will be drinking too much. I will be unhealthy. Why is it so difficult to take that decision and do something about it? What have you met, and also with your clients? How are you working with this?
Well, I think the biggest thing is actually commitment. Okay, so first, it's making the commitment to oneself. And I think in at least culturally here in the United States, and I think most everywhere globally, there is this idea that we have to serve and be of use to everyone else. And we've kind of put ourselves on the back burner, especially if you're parents. I think there's a idea that we're always wanting to support everyone else. So your commitment to yourself is really your commitment to everyone else, the family. And then at some point, I think you wake up, I don't know, if you're at 50, I don't know if it's 40, it's like different for each person, 60 for some, 70 for others. You wake up and you go, holy crap, I'm not going to be here forever. So what's the quality of my life? How do I want it to be? And I think more people are waking up now, recognizing that they're not getting the results that they want by sitting around. They're not getting the results by doing a half-baked, I was going to the gym and I got some results, but I plateaued probably years ago because I wasn't pushing myself. So I think it's commitment, and then I think it's consistency. And so what you just said, Jesper, is that you started to do it every day. You developed a backbone. To me, that's commitment, and then that's you're being consistent. And it's those two things that then when you practice, you're doing your consistent practice of, let's say, strength training or yoga in your case, or walking or intermittent fasting, whatever it is, will make a definite positive. I mean, you'll feel better. Hormones are changing every decade, men and women. How we are, what we're eating is changing. What we used to eat and the portions that we used to eat might be different today, or it might not, but there's lots of potential for change. And we act, or at least I know I have acted like I'm still 30 and I can eat a certain way. I mean, one of the things Randy was saying is that I got into this nutritional piece because in my late 50s, I found I was strength training, building muscle, but I was also gaining fat because of how I ate. And I couldn't figure out why I was gaining this weight. And so, and I'd done a lot of different programs, which had worked in my 30s, had worked in my 40s, but in my 50s, it wasn't. And I couldn't seem to get back on track. And what was weird is I kept going back to these old ways. So the big thing for people, I think, Jesper, is change is hard here. You know, we think, my God, I got to change something. And it's like, it just is hard for humans, I think, to say, I'm going to change something.
And you talked about motivation, or you were going there, Jesper. What is it that motivates? I think we have to look at the way that we're raised to begin with in a reward and punishment society, primarily punishment society. Across institutions. And so on the individual level, I can say this is true for myself too. Do I want to punish myself to change or reward myself to change? So the reason that New Year's resolutions flag out and usually don't work for people, at least beyond the first few weeks, because they're based on self-punishment. People go, you know, I can't, and self-denial. I can't do this and I can't do that, and I've got to stop that. And it's not very rewarding. The punishment doesn't feel good. So how do you replace that with what feels good? Okay, and this goes back to, you know, our questions around the passion test. You know, what feels best? What feels better? What feels better is to feel more energetic at 7 p.m. Than, you know, just slouching in the couch and eating junk food. What feels better is knowing that if I don't do that, I'll wake up in the morning, I'll get a better night's sleep. That always feels great, to get a better night's sleep. So motivation is about how do you reprogram to be constantly rewarding yourself. And for some of us, it literally is looking in the mirror going, wow, you know, my body has changed. And sometimes it's hard for people's body image to catch up with the actual reflection in the mirror, because they're still thinking, I'm not good enough, I'm still fat, whatever, even though their body is changing. So it's about coming into alignment with that new feeling and body image as well, to be able to keep progressing. What Karin does so beautifully with people as they come into this program at different ages and stages and places is that she encourages people to start where they are, right? Which means she might demonstrate an exercise, but she goes, and if that's too hard, do it this way. And if that's not difficult enough, do it this way. So they can really get into that place and bite. And when they continue for many weeks, many months, then they can actually do the one that she's demonstrated is a little more difficult. So it's incremental change and constant reward and self-reward and a realignment of self-image.
Yeah, I think people feel better. You know, like I know, especially when we were all isolated in our little bubbles 4 years ago. I remember just feeling so much better physically when I would do strength training. Mentally, I would be like, oh, like I just, you know, the endorphins, you know, there's just different good vibe, you know, hormones being pumped in a way that I could manage. And I had a community, and I'm telling you, community, I don't want to discount community, because I think having a group of people who are showing up and then it makes you want to show up is powerful. I mean, when you get 20 people, 25, 18, whatever numbers, 12, I mean, it goes all over the place based on the week. But I have a core group of people who have been showing up for 4 years.
Wow.
And we're seeing changes in each other as well as ourselves.
Right.
And I think this is another place where it takes a village applies.
Yeah, I remember, you know, I have on my Zoom, I can look at what people are doing, because I can't really see when I'm actually showing the exercises, but I'll look afterwards. And I remember I saw a couple of people in particular who are using very light weights. And I remember I texted them and I said, okay, it's been 2 years. It's time. You now got it. You have to push it up, and really bring it up to a whole nother level for yourself. And that, I think, is key also, is that when you're in community and you have someone who's willing to coach you or facilitate a process, which is what I feel like I'm doing, it has made a big difference. So now I have, this person who's like, gosh, I feel so much better now using these heavier weights. And he can feel different in his muscles, and he was kind of the skinny guy. And now he's, getting more bulk. And not that he needs to be all bulked out. That's not what he's all about. But it's, very different. And he said, I wouldn't have done it without you. And I haven't, I have other people like this, like lots of people like this. You have to look and go, all right, let's, you can do it. And I do one-on-one coaching with people with strength training, and we'll write out programs for folks. And I love that. And I also love the group because I don't know, there's something about that community that is just, I get excited. And, I know Randy talked about motivation, and I have to say that knowing that there's a group, you're more likely to show up, right? If it was just me and Randy and I, okay. But if there's, as we have heard, that more and more people come together, you're more likely to jump in and go, okay, there's something here. I want to know, I want to be a part of it, right? I want to be part of the tribe and feel better, look better. And so much of it is in the head. It's, I think it starts here saying, I say this all the time to people. Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Karin, can we talk a little about being in the head and the body? One of the things Cecilia and I talked about actually this morning was that how it can be difficult to go down into the body sometimes, because when you get present in the body, you sometimes feel some of the stuff that you have neglected while being in the head. So how do you work with that, and what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's very true what you said, that there is a real separation between the head and the body. And again, I think that's kind of a systemic way in which in many cultures we have been taught that we're better if we're thinking and not so much feeling. I mean, there's just a lot of pressure to be intellectual, to be able to respond in a smart, and so what we're doing a lot of that time is we're suppressing how we feel, our feelings. So, and our feelings can be scary. So Cecilia, feelings are scary. I assume you and Jesper are doing, you're each of your own work. And I want to hear, Cecilia, what you're doing as well.
I haven't talked much in this podcast. It's very strange. I'm usually babbling on, but change is nice. I don't have to talk all the time. What I was saying this morning was just he's very stubborn and
sweet and sweet.
Love you. No, but really we're not the same person. And my husband is very stubborn and sometimes a little narrow-minded. He will drink the same tea and it has to be that tea and it has to be every day and it has to be at that time and it has to be that tea. And if I can't have that tea, I'm not having tea. And it's like, okay, come on. I mean, you could just take the tea.
It's not the same tea.
So it's a little bit like that. He would import tea from Africa at some point because our tea shop in Copenhagen stopped having it. And in the same way, he's doing his daily 1 kilometer, no matter what. He could have pneumonia and it could be 2 degrees outside and raining. He'll do it anyway. And I'm like, maybe, look at the realities here. Or I need you, goddamn, the house is burning. No, I'm running.
Yeah.
He's a little bit like that. And all honor to the initiative. It's great. Yeah. My husband feels good and he's going to last longer. And I find it amazing and impressive. I just have to, I'm not him. That's not how I don't function like that. I can't be stubborn like that. I can't be doing the same thing always, no matter what, like that. It doesn't work for me. And it wouldn't work for me to try to copy my husband.
No.
So that's one thing. And I do take care of myself. I do my running, I do my yoga, I do my long walks. And I mean, I was way ahead of you when we first met on the healthy foods thing and had to pull back in order to have a relationship because he didn't get it. And it was where we had to fight a lot over what was actually food or not. So, I mean, it's not like I'm not doing anything. It's just I can't do that stubborn thing. And sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I can't do it today. And I clearly have, and here comes the body mind problem. I clearly have a window. And at some point of the day it closes and I just can't do it. I can't hold my, can I say shit on my own podcast?
Yeah.
I can't hold my shit together. It's as if going into the yoga flow, going deep into the body, being present with that would freak me out. I can't do it. I can do it in the morning. And at some point, I just reach a point where I can't do it. And we could talk about that for maybe 80 hours. I'm a psychologist too. I know what could be, but you know what? I could also just face it and get the yoga done before that window closes, and then we can move on. I have other things to do in my life. And I mean, it's relevant. We have 4 children. Only one is an adult and moved out, and they are unschooled. They are at home. They need someone to be around them. I do the cooking. I do a lot of things. And so if I get the yoga done in the morning, it's great. And if I miss it, I miss it and I forgive myself. It's okay. And so, yeah, that was the mind body conversation we had. That somehow the physical, just facing the fact that I do feel it as well. I'm not 17 anymore. And facing the music of what's going on when I do my yoga, sometimes if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I simply do not have the mental strength for it. I can go for a run then. I can do that. And then I do that instead. So yeah, I shared something now.
Yeah, so Cecilia, but that's interesting. You said to do yoga, that was mental strength.
Yeah, but all of it is mental. It's all in the mind. But somehow, if I put in my earbuds or run with a friend, I can run. I can run any time of the day. It's just to get out there and start running, and then I can run until I cannot run anymore. And in these years, it's a little bit pathetic, but I can do it. And then I've done some workout. But with the yoga, I do half a yoga exercise, and it's as if something inside implodes, and I just need my morning energy for it.
Nice.
I mean,
well, it's good to know yourself.
Yeah, we shouldn't turn this into a session. I mean, we could, but then I think we should stop the podcast recording.
Right. No, actually, I like that, you know what works for you and what doesn't. So that's clear. I think the other thing you mentioned is, so here's how I see exercise. There's like what I would call active stretching, which might be more yoga. There's also in yoga, there's a way to build lean muscle. And because I've seen some amazingly pretty lean, strong people who do yoga. It's different than what I would call resistance training, which is actually building muscle because we're losing our muscle mass. And then there's the running, and there's the what I would call the cardio, the higher intensity. So there's like active stretching or active recovery, yoga, kind of walking the beach, gentle, maybe gentle bicycling, any of that. That's all movement. Then there's the cardio, which is higher intensity, which is running fast, maybe, going fast, going slow, whatever it is that you're doing, or fast bicycling, any of those things. And all of these pieces are needed in our life, plus the resistance training. And then what you mentioned also is the food piece, which is where I was, I think, very limited in my understanding. I thought I was eating well, and I did eat well, but I was eating a lot more processed food than I realized. And that was kind of a wake-up call. And I also had resisted. Okay, so notice I was like in this resistance mode of learning about macros macros are, proteins, fats, fiber, and carbs. And I did not want to learn about this, but I knew that I needed to, because I was not getting results. And that was the thing,
You
is
couldn't sustain your physical
I could not.
activities without going there.
Yeah, so it was kind of like, if I want to be outdoors, if I want to be able to do all the things I love, I have to get my food act together. And so I did this 6-week training with this coach, and it's called The Faster Way to Fat Loss. And this woman was amazing. And I kind of saw in those 6 weeks, I was like, wow, and it kind of integrates so many things: intermittent fasting, hydration, resistance training, the strength training, the stretching and the yoga, and the mental piece of positive self-talk, and and the recipes and everything. And I was like, and then in this little app, which is like a magnificent app, it's so powerful. It creates for each person your macros for the day. And so
The ratio.
the ratio or percentage of how many grams you're going to eat of each item. And it was like a true game changer for me, because all of a sudden I'm paying attention to the stuff that I have said I would never do. And it took though months for me to really understand it. But I needed a structure. So I also know, for me, what I need is structure. So if I'm going to do something, I need someone to hold my hand. I need someone to walk me through the thing. I need to do it over and over and over again until I go, oh. And by about the 3rd month or so, I remember people were like, what are you doing, Karin? You look different. And I was like, oh, because I had no idea that I would look different. I just knew that I was eating differently. And so what was remarkable to me is that I lost like 21 pounds over the last year. I went down 2.5 to 3 pant sizes, which was shocking to me, because again, this wasn't my goal. My goal was to be able to just go outdoors and be able to do the things I want to do. And I wasn't feeling as good in my clothes. I wasn't feeling as good overall. And it has been dramatic for me. I mean, my energy is so much better.
And you still gain muscle mass.
I've totally, and this is another thing, is that in a lot of programs, thank you, is that people will lose weight, but they're actually losing muscle. They're not fat. And it's visceral fat. It's the fat that's in our organs. And so I did this for over a year. And before that year was up, I went, you know what? I'm going to become a trainer in this program. So I pushed myself to learn, and they had it beautifully set up. It was like a 1.5 years ago that I did this, and I finally I got through the certification. I was really pleased, and then I started these 6-week community circles, and I have found that even teaching it now, I have also become, as we are the trainers, we're also having to do the work ourselves, right? So yeah. So I think that piece has been so powerful for me, because this was really where I had all my resistance. So when people are talking to me about their resistance, I'm like, oh yeah. I know
we
that.
all have it, yeah.
Well,
And we have to work with it head first. But for me, one of my things is I get over ambitious. So my first step of working with my resistance is to be kind to myself instead of being hard to myself. So yeah, but it is powerful to find the corners where we can really learn something new and add to what we're already doing. And sometimes it's very easy to find them because it's everywhere we don't want to look.
Right.
It's if you look around and you see, when do I blink? That's where it is. Yeah,
I think the key to a lot of what Karin has been committed to in these last few years is to stay out of ruts and finding structures where you're doing different exercises every day for all parts of your body, and you are eating differently every day based on what your body needs that day. So you're constantly changing and you're staying out of rut. And that's what I'm lazy. So I'm the great beneficiary of Karin's persistence with changing up the exercise routine, because I was in a rut at the gym too, with changing up the food. And this program she's in now, it's an amazing array of good, healthy recipes, different kinds of ingredients, different foods, whole, organic, natural, real food. And so even though I'm not calibrating like she is, I'm getting this residual benefit from people who like to eat with her, not alone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I mean, just looking at you compared to the last meeting we were on 3 or 4 years ago, all of us look better, I believe.
I think so. I agree. You can say it for Cecilia. She looks beautiful, so whatever. Beautiful
We
then,
don't know how I looked 3 years ago. Could be,
No.
could be, could be
But
worse. How do we know?
To not keep the podcast too long, we should find a good place to leave it and give people some advices. But my first thought around this is there's so much knowledge that I didn't knew I missed about. I mean, we are even from supplements to how do you exercise in a good way, because I grew up with a system of, you just run and then you do some push-up bunk, then all is good, and you eat whatever's on the plate kind of world view.
Make sure you get your carbs.
Yeah, make sure you eat your carbs and drink half a liter of milk every day, then boom, life is good. Yeah. So it is. I hope all this we are talking about and each of us are exploring in our own way will end up as common knowledge at some point. But where would you a really good advice for people who want to start a commitment with themselves? What would that be?
I think first you just have to say to yourself, progress over perfection.
Yeah.
Right? You got to take a step. And whatever that thing is that you really want to do, move towards it. Take some action. And it's not about doing it perfectly, because if it was, nobody would touch anything. So we have to let go of the perfection piece and just say, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to keep trying this, and I'm going to keep trying this.
And see what happens.
And see what happens, right? And enjoy it. And there will be days where you don't enjoy it. And so maybe like Cecilia or like myself, if I really don't have the energy, then I might not do something that day.
Give yourself a break.
And I'll be like, it's okay. You're good. You got this. Because guess what? Tomorrow's a new day. You get to jump in again and whoa, let's do it.
And rest is critical.
Yeah, all of that. So I think just progress over perfection. I would say, really get clear about what's the thing that you want to move towards. Like quality of life is a big topic. So is it in the body? Is it, like you can't, like if you can't get up from the floor, that's an issue I would really pay attention to. If you are, got a big old belly and you realize that's getting in your way, then that's something to look at, right? And not in a negative way, but more as, you can change this. I mean, we see, like you said, Jesper, so many people at all ages, 96, 70, changing their entire life with different lifestyle choices. So it's the lifestyle choice, progress over perfection, take an action in some area. And I really believe that resistance training, strength training is so important. It doesn't have to be like you're bulking up, and most women, will never bulk up unless they've been doing this and have real, like a massive process of doing a program to the nth degree, and most of us don't. But if you can feel stronger, and I think women are really the leaders in this, honestly. and the men are following. And I think it's so cool that, you know, for you, Jesper, it's the yoga. And Cecilia, for you, it's the running. Just, you know, just notice, like for me, find a balance for yourself of whatever that whole foods, nutritious eating is for you. I had, you know, this 6-week thing that I do, Faster Way program, was a real eye opener. And, you know, there's no gluten, there's no dairy, but you get to eat what you want. It's not like, because it won't be sustainable. Like if I never got to eat another piece of chocolate, I would be,
Oh, yes.
I'd be so sad. So that's not part of the game. So whatever you're doing also has to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Karin and Randy, it has been such a big pleasure. It could be really wonderful if you wanted to share where people can get a hold of you, where they can find the wisdom card. So if you can pluck yourself a little, or what it's called.
Right. Well, we've talked about the dogs and cats earlier. The Divine Dog Wisdom deck cards and guidebook is available on Amazon currently, and as is the Cosmic Cat Wisdom deck and guidebook, and the Passion Principle, how to live your most passionate life. That's also on Amazon. My name is Randy Crutcher. I have an author's page if you want to learn a little bit more about me before you take a deeper dive and see if any one of those publications might meet your needs for getting support and moving on with your life. And Karin.
Well, I got a lot of things going on, but I'll just say, if you go to Dr. Karin Lubin, Karin Lubin, LUBIN.com, drkarinlubin.com, you'll see exercise, and you can scroll down and look for all the many things that I'm doing with the Faster Way, with the Circle of Exercise for Health, which is all live on Zoom. I do recordings. There's recordings there that people can see and look at. I do all kinds of other things, but I'll just leave it at that. And you can just look at the website and see what I do. It's all about self-discovery, feeling good.
We will put the links in the show notes, so you don't have to scroll back and note down the spelling and whatever.
Yeah.
Let's make it easy.
We will make it easy for people.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your time. It was a big pleasure.
Wonderful to meet you, Cecilia.
Likewise. Likewise. I hope we do it again.
I love it.
Yeah,
Sounds
me too.